Hi, sixth graders. This video is on dividing decimals. So I have two different sets of steps that I want you to copy down depending on the types of numbers we are dividing. So the first one I would like you to write down is decimal divided by a whole number. And then here are our steps. Place a decimal point directly above the decimal under the division bracket, and then divide to find the quotient. So let's talk about these as I do these two problems, which I would like you to have in your notebook so you can have a couple good examples to go back and look at. So we have 94 hundredths divided by 3. The first number, remember, is always under the division bracket. So 94 hundredths divided by 3. So step 1 says place a decimal point directly above the decimal under, so the decimal that is under the division bracket, you're going to put the decimal point directly above it, and then we divide. So this decimal right here is now going to jump up to right there. We don't do anything with it and we leave it. Now we act like this decimal right here is just gone and we divide. So 3 cannot go into 0. 3 can go into 9 3 times. I automatically am going to put a 0 here because we always need to have a 0 or a whole number before the decimal. So 3 times 3 is 9. And then 9 minus 9 is 0. I drop down the 4. So 3 goes into 4 one time. 1 times 3 is 3. So 4 minus 3 is 1. I'm going to add a 0 because I can add as many zeros as I want after a decimal, and that's going to give me more numbers to keep dividing by. So I'm going to drop down, add that 0. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. I'm going to add a 0 again, drop this down. Now I'm starting to see that it's going to be repeating over and over and over, and I'll be here forever. So 3 goes into 10 3 times again. I'm going to extend this line to keep it organized. 3 times 3 is 9. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. And then it's going to keep going on and on, so I feel like I can stop because I know that it's repeating. I'm seeing that this 3 is repeating, and so I'm going to put a bar over it, which is called bar notation. This was not included in your vocab words, but you probably want to write this down. Bar notation means that it is a repeating number or decimal over and over. So my answer then, I would write it as, let's change my color here. I would write it as 313 thousandths repeating, but I'm only putting the 3 or the bar notation over the 3 because that tells me then that it's really 0.31333333 and so forth. All right, 94 and 21 hundredths divided by 6. So 94 and 21 hundredths divided by 6. I put that decimal right above it, and then I divide like normal. 6 goes into 9 once. 1 times 6 is 6. 9 minus 6 is 3. Drop down the 4. 6 goes into 34 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. 34 minus 30 is 4. Bring down the 2. So I have 42. 6 goes into 42 7 times. 7 times 6 is 42. 0, but then I bring this 1 down. So 6 goes into 1 0 times. 0 times 6 is 0, and then 1 minus 0 is 1, bring down a 0, so now I can see, 6 goes into 10 once, 1 times 6 is 6, 10 minus 6, sorry, I'm running out of room, so I need to keep pushing it up. 10 minus 6 is 4, add a 0, so let's keep adding this line. 0, or bring that down. 6 goes into 46 times. 6 times 6 is 36. 40 minus 36 is 4, 0, bring it down, and now I can see it's repeating again, so it's going to be 6 goes into 46 times, and so forth. So my answer, this 6 is the repeating, so it's going to be 15.7016 repeating. Sometimes the decimal is going to stop. Sometimes it will be repeating like this. Sometimes the whole number will be repeating. You just have to figure out where you're going to put that bar notation. I would say after like the 10,000s is when you would round that decimal off and be done adding zeros, because you don't want to sit here forever and keep adding zeros and zeros also. Okay, the next type of problem that we have is a decimal divided by a decimal. So I want you to write decimal divided by a decimal. So I would write this right underneath those two examples so you can keep those examples with the steps that go with it, and now you have new steps and new examples. So decimal divided by a decimal, and then here are your steps, which we're going to talk about as I solve this first problem. So 12 and 6/10 divided by 3/10. So I'm going to still set it up the exact same way. The first number goes under this box, and then we have the 3/10 outside. So first step, move both decimal points to the right the same number of places to make the outside number whole. So let's look at this. To make the outside number, which is the 3/10, we want to make it a whole number. So if I move this over to the right 1, that gives me a 3. But if I do that to the outside, I now need to do this to the inside. So my new dividing numbers are 126 divided by 3. And I'm going to keep this decimal here because then I know that that goes and pops up right there. And just to make it, because it kind of looks weird with a decimal sitting right there with nothing after, I'm just going to add a couple zeros in case I might use them, I might not, but I'm just going to have them there so I know that it's just not an unorganized space. And now I'm gonna forget those decimals, and I'm just gonna divide. So 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 minus 12 is 0. Bring down the 6. 3 goes into 6 twice. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 6 is 0. And then I'm done because I can bring this 0 down, and then I can see, oh, 3 goes into 0 0 times, and it's just gonna be zeros over and over. And we know that any zeros after a decimal, as long as it's after a number, don't really matter. So I can go back through and cancel those out, and it's going to be 42. So let's look at this for a second. We're taking 12 and something, and we're dividing it by 3/10. Usually when we divide something, our answer is going to be smaller. But we started at 12 and we ended up with a number way bigger. So when we divide by a number, dividing by less than 1, so 3/10 is less than 1, means that we are going to get a bigger number. Because basically what I'm doing is I'm taking 12 and 6/10 and I'm dividing it into groups of 3/10, which is I can get, a little over 3 groups of 3/10 inside one group, or a one whole. So that's why we have more. So just keep that in mind. When we're dividing by a fraction or a decimal less than 1, our answer is going to get bigger. 26 and 432 thousandths divided by 2 and 36 hundredths. So if we take off our decimals, we can see it's going to be about 26 divided by about 2. So this time I know my answer is going to be less than 26 because my number I'm dividing by is greater than 1. So the decimal has to be less than 1 in order to make it a bigger answer. So we can see, to get this a whole number, we can go over to the right 2. So basically to get anything a whole number, it's however many steps to the right to the end of all the digits. So if I go over 2 to the right here, I go over 2 to the right here. And then I'm going to rewrite it. So that's 236. This is, 2,643 and 2/10. The biggest mistake I see is that we move here, but we forget to move it here. Because 26 and 432 thousandths divided by 2 and 36 hundredths is a lot different than 26 and 432 thousandths divided by 236. So we're basically just timesing 2.36 times 100. And so we're doing the same thing inside. We're basically just multiplying them both by the same thing to get bigger numbers so that we have a whole number on the outside. All right, so 236 can go into 264 one time. And I forgot to put my decimal up here, so I'm going to do that. 1 times 236 is 236. So now I'm going to subtract. I can't do 4 minus 6, so I'm going to take 10 over. So 14 minus 6 is 8. 5 minus 3 is 2. And then I'm going to bring that 3 over. I know 236 can go in there one time. 1 times 236 again. So let's subtract. Hopefully I'm not making any mistakes. 7 minus 3 is 4. And then I'm going to bring my 2 down. So 236, how many times can it go into 472? Well, I know that 36 times 2 is 72, and 2 times 2 is 4. So 2, it would go in there 2 times. And then we're done. We end at 0, and then we know we can be done. So my answer then is 11 and 2/10. And remember we said 26 and something divided by 2 and something. Well, I know 26 divided by 2 is 13, so my answer is reasonable and makes sense. You can pause me for a second and solve this one really quick and then come back and check. So I'm going to move this over 1 to the right, which means that I move this over 1 to the right. So I have 15 on the outside, 832 and 5/10 on the inside. I like to rewrite it because then I'm not confused with all my extra lines. I put this on top. I know that 15 goes into 80. I always have to count by 15s, 15, 30, 45, 60, 75. So 5 times. 5 times 15 is 75. 83 minus 75. So we carry that. And then let's bring that 2 down. So again, we have 5. So 5 times 15 is 75 again. Then 82 minus 75. I can carry over the 7 and add 12, but I also just know that 75 to 82 is 7. And then let's bring that 5 down. How convenient that it goes into it exactly 5 times. So then we have 0 left. So we have 55 and a half as our answer. Okay, there's just one more type of problem that I want to show you guys. So if we have 320 divided by 1 and 25 hundredths, if I need to make, because we know we have to make 1 and 25 hundredths a whole number. So if I need to move this over 2 to the right, then we look inside and we have to move our decimal 2 to the right, but there isn't a decimal. So we need to add a decimal and some zeros. I'm going to make my line longer because if we can add a decimal and as many zeros as we want, and it doesn't change the value of the number as long as we add that decimal there. So since I went 2 to the right here, now I can go 2 to the right here, and my decimal will pop up right there. So then I went from 320 to 32,000. So let's rewrite this now as 125 here and 32,000 here. My decimal is going to pop up here. I'm going to add a couple zeros just in case if I need those as I'm dividing. So 125 goes into 322 times. 2 times 125 is 250. 320 minus 250 is 70. Bring down that 0. So 700, so 125 times 5. 5 times 125 is 625, because I know that 5 times 100 is 500, and then 5 times 25 is 125. So 500 plus 125 is 625. 700 minus 625 is 75. Now I'm going to bring that 0 down. And then, so if I know that 125 goes into 625 5 times, and I add 125, I get 750. So then it's going to be 6 times 125, and I get 750, and then that's going to be 0. So then I can be done, and I actually didn't need these zeros, but that's okay because it kept me nice and organized. And I don't even need this decimal here because I can just make it an even 256.